Sometimes you forget to put yourself in the stage, to be honest, and then that creates a whole different feeling to what you're trying to do. But man, yesterday was basically football equinox. You had everything come down to yesterday. We know where our playoff teams are. We know who our IC teams are. We saw teams qualify in the most dramatic of fashions, and a little under 24 hours later, how are we feeling? Right, and I think that's an interesting question to ask people. How are you feeling a little bit under 24 hours later? Maybe your team made it, maybe your team did not. We can go and we can talk about it. We also had teams that played friendlies. We saw results from that over that window. By the way, the U17s were happening. Was anyone watching that yesterday morning? I did. A full day of stuff. But a day later, how are we feeling? What do we learn? Where are we? And that's what we want to talk about here today. Welcome to the Africans, do primarily Canadian African football content, but in this case, I guess we're covering all the football content and talking about what we saw, what is working for us, what didn't, and that. So if you like this type of content, Canadian, African, and today just all of football, leave a subscribe, leave a comment on the live. We're trying this dual view here thing, so if you're seeing me on the shorts while you're scrolling through your thumbs, hi, we out here. If you're watching me on the channel itself, thank you for being a part. Leave a subscribe, leave a comment in the chat. Let me know which teams are you excited about after results from yesterday. What surprised you? What disappointed you? We'll go and we'll talk about it. But wow, what a day yesterday was, from the Scots at the death to CONCACAF qualifiers. An own goal secures Suriname to make it through, and Honduras and both Costa Rica aren't able to move through after they drew their game. All direct berths for the World Cup have been selected, and we know, and they are all there. And now it just comes down to the playoffs, which we are going to talk about. But let's talk about the teams that are there, everybody who is here. Hello, Amir. How are you doing today? Glad you could join us here. But let's go over all the teams that are there as of now. We'll talk about it. We're going to try to talk, if people stop by, we'll talk about what they have to see and what they've gone from there. But the teams that are qualified so far, this is it. We have our three hosts: Mexico, USA, Canada. Our Asian sides, we have Japan, Iran, South Korea, Australia, Qatar. We have Uzbekistan, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. In Africa, you have Morocco, Senegal, Egypt, Algeria, Tunisia, Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa, Cabo Verde, their first birth there. Ghana. In CONCACAF, you have Panama, Haiti, Curacao. In CONMEBOL, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay, Ecuador, Paraguay. Oceanic, you have New Zealand, UEFA, Spain, France, England, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Croatia, Switzerland, Austria, Norway, and the Scots, which means we have the 4 UEFA playoff spots and then the FIFA Intercontinental playoff spots, which are sitting there. Heck, we'll even talk awards too. The CAF awards were today. Congratulations to 2 Moroccan Players of the Year, which is a choice. I know Canadians are wondering for one particular player why she didn't even get any type of pub for it, but hey, we are here. We're talking about. But these are the 46, the 42, and the last 8 are going to be the playoff winners. But you look at the names. That yesterday was big in CONCACAF. You saw the CONCACAF ones finish yesterday evening. You saw UEFA finish in the middle of the day for us here in North America. And then in the morning, you're watching U17s because I'm a sicko like that. But Curacao and Haiti for CONCACAF, I applaud you. You did the work. You made it through. I applaud you on all that you've done. Well done, well done. Just beautiful. It's sometimes whether a team goes there and gets a 9 spot put on them, whether a team shows up and, they may be surprised. I think one of the great things is the opportunity, and you see how big, and sometimes you may forget how big the World Cup, La Coupe du Monde, La Mondiale, how big it is. And when you see people celebrating like that, you have to take a minute and say, "Oh, right, we get to be on a stage." This is bigger. The World Cup is bigger than the Olympics in many ways because it's just the world's game, all focused in one. And I'm very much excited to see these teams coming up in Canada and Mexico. I know there's games in the States. Most of the games are in the States. I will be in Canada and Mexico. That's where I'll be flying. Nowhere else. But it is great to see these types of results going through and seeing the celebration for the new. I saw so many Scott celebrations, so Irish, Republic of Ireland celebrations for making the playoffs. So you see those 42 teams that are already qualified. We have the draw for the IC playoff is actually happening tomorrow at about noon in Europe. So it'll be about 6:50 here in CONCACAF time. Well, here Eastern Standard Time is when it'll be. So early in the morning, we will know who is playing where for the playoff for the IC playoff. And just what we already know at this point is based off of rankings, which we'll show you here. We know that the DR Congo and Iraq are the bye winners. So they only need to win one matchup to go all the way to the World Cup. The one game in Mexico, right? One night in Cancun, one night as the Azteca, wherever it's played, one night, and you get that done. We also know that Jamaica and Curacao are going to be on both sides of the bracket. They're not going to be on one side of the bracket. We know that. So it's either going to be Jamaica versus Bolivia or Jamaica versus New Caledonia and vice versa. And that's where your matchups up. And that happens in the March window. So while most World Cup teams are going to be playing for their, warming up, trying to play teams, it's going to be a lot of action in North America in March. A lot in the Southern Hemisphere. I am certain of it. We're going to see a lot of games in Texas, California, unless you have a domed area, that'll happen as well. In Mexico, that's when the IC playoff is going to be happening. So those are the two spots that will be decided, and we'll know who's playing who early tomorrow morning. And then on the UEFA side, there's 3 paths for 4 spots, and it's the semifinal and the final, and everything needs to be drawn. We know who our pot 1, 2, 3, 4 teams are. So our pot 1 teams are Italy, Denmark, Turkey, and Ukraine. Our pot 4s are Sweden, Romania, North Macedonia, and Northern Ireland. Our pot 2 are Poland, Wales, Czechia, and I believe Slow. No, that's not slow. Wait, see, I gotta do my map. I gotta do my flags. It's one of the Slovs. I should have had this ready to go. UEFA World Cup qualifiers. Look at me just being slightly unprepared. But our pot 3s, let me pull that up here. It is Slovakia. There we go. Wonderful, wonderful. And then our pot 2s, you have Albania, Bosnia Herzegovina, Republic of Ireland, and Co. So they'll be all slotted, a 1 versus 4, a 2 versus 3. You know that these are the possible matchups there. And then one winner from every bracket is going on to the World Cup. So we'll have that. And that's also going to be happening in March of 2026. The draws happen. All the draws are happening tomorrow. So we're going to know who is playing who. And they will have, again, 5 months to prepare before they play March. And we have the dates already. March 26th are the semifinals, and the finals are March 31st for that. And that's what we'll have coming up on the UEFA line. So I am very much curious and excited to see what that looks like. I know people are in and out of the comments, so I appreciate you guys here. Amir, always good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Hakimi did win CAF Player of the Year. Well done for him. Well done for him. All right. Yes, and it was deserved more than anybody. I do agree. Can't wait for AFCON and Rabat. It's going to be good. It is unfortunate that he is injured because he was my dark horse who could have the team resume for Ballon d'Or. I think he could have a team resume for Ballon d'Or with PSG, and then a deep Morocco run for. I think I read somewhere the Moroccans are hoping he's available right after the group stage. So if they get that, then possibly you can push that on and see what you can do there. And then there we go. Yep. Son saying IMAX New Caledonia is recruiting League One players. Look out. They are not going to be a side on that. That's true. On the IC playoff line, they are going to be a side there. New Caledonia, hey, they made it. And so New Caledonia are either playing Suriname or Jamaica. And I know we might look at the ranking and say, okay, that will be an easier side. Listen, the days of looking at rankings, especially from CONCACAF, throw it out the window. They're playing for the Mondial. They're playing for the World Cup. So that is something you need to be focused on. Have your A game going from there. Yep, watch back the New Caledonia games versus Gibraltar and New Zealand. They play solid. No, most definitely they did play solid. I think we look at them, they have an air of, because of where the Confederation is from, we may not take them seriously, but no. I don't think for a chance at the World Cup, everyone's going to be, no one's just going to show up. This isn't a friendly. This is a chance that'll change your federation. It'll change your legacy. Everyone is playing for that. And so, hey, don't think that the team that you're playing are just going to lie down. They'll be happy to be there. No. The teams that you're playing are going to fight to be there. And so expect a fight and fight harder so that you can actually make your way all the way to that World Cup and represent your country. You make history in this case, being one of these countries who some have never made it and others haven't made it in a very long time. That I do agree with, and we'll see from there. So that is what we have looking in terms of the qualified World Cup teams. And again, if you are late to this, here are your qualified teams, and we're just waiting we'll find out tomorrow, the UEFA playoff draw, who will be playing who, as well as the Intercontinental playoff draw. We'll be looking at that as well. I'm pretty excited for that. I think we've had good football with it. We've had good stories. I mean, you see DR Congo playing well. And I think the one thing that we have to always remember with sides is just because you haven't heard of them doesn't mean they aren't playing good, right? We just made that point with New Caledonia. Like we saw with the African playoff. Oh, DR Congo, it's Nigeria. Nigeria's a name. Nigeria wasn't playing well. And then when you reach this point where you have to put together a solid 90, they can't do it. DR Congo taking in penalties. The one equalizer now is because there's going to be so much time in between. If these were happening, if there was a December window, it would be live because there would be so many things that would affect it in terms of availability. You'd have to face the repercussions of yellows and reds immediately, and you'll still have to do that later. Now, maybe you don't bring those players, or maybe you try to address for the players that are around. But I am very much excited to see how it goes, what it looks like in that sense. But I don't know. For you, as you're popping in, what to you is the biggest surprise for you in terms of newcomers or countries that maybe you didn't expect to come to this World Cup, right? Countries, we knew with an expanded format, we were going to get new debutants, teams that haven't made it before. But who's the biggest surprise for you? Uzbekistan isn't a surprise because they were a side, if you've watched their youth teams, you knew they were building eventually. And the same thing as like a side like Ukraine. Their youth teams have been good. And so when you see them at a level, you say, okay, at a senior level, okay, they're starting to push. That makes sense. So Uzbekistan isn't that much of a surprise to me. Or I'm seeing some names come in, but guys, put that in the comment. Let me know what's the biggest debutant surprise for you that you've seen so far. Because we look at the list, right? Jordan, it's been a long time for them. Capo Verde, I'm not surprised with them. I know it's their first time coming. They have been playing well in Africa for many years, right? Even at the last AFCON, if not for Rowan Williams, the best goalkeeper on the continent, if not in all of Africa, I think they make a deeper run there. They've been my dark horse side for AFCON for the last two tournaments. I mean, they finally had a nice run in it. And so Cabo Verde, Cape Verde, they're not a surprise to me. They may be a surprise to the world that pushes through. We get from the Africans to the CONCACAF sides, Panama. It was a little dicey for them, but they made it through. And so Panama, to me, have the best pound for pound manager in CONCACAF, Thomas Christensen. I think he is the best manager, the best gaffer in the Confederation. But then if you look at, say, Haiti, did we expect Haiti to qualify? Haiti have always been a little Jekyll and Hyde. And so to see them be able to get through in a group which had Costa Rica, a group that had Honduras, and they're able to emerge, they stacked wins well when they needed to. And so when you see that from Haiti, it's like, okay, maybe they are a little bit of a surprise. I know we have some names there coming in. Curacao, I'm not surprised that Curacao made it. They are a side I think stylistically will always cause trouble for teams that just want to be pressing or countering and that type. So passing will always be able to move through a press very well. And then in UEFA, Scotland is, as Prince Hood said, yes, Scotland did the job at the death. That game, people were messaging me saying, "Are you watching the Scotland Denmark match? Because you should be." And at the death, it's 1-0, then it's 1-1, then it's 2-1, then 4 minutes later it's 2-2, and then they get the goals in added time. Great moment for Scotland. Ireland making the playoff, that was a big moment as well. Ireland football was eating good over these last little bits. Right, the U17s make the quarterfinals round of the new format of U17 tournament, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The men qualify for the playoff. Man, they're Northern Ireland football, Republic of Ireland football, sorry, are eating good, and that's good for them. Good for them. Scotland, the first time. French colonies, look out, their diaspora is crazy. I agree. I think we forget that in even Haiti, they brought in two players who were playing in England. I think championship players. They brought them in, and from what I was reading, they really stabilized what was happening in terms of those two results. And so now you can go to France, man. France might feel a way that they will be basically subsidizing a lot of rosters at this World Cup, right? Algeria goes there to recruit. Morocco goes there to recruit. Tunisia on occasion goes there to recruit, right? Haiti is going to go there to recruit now. Man, France right now might feel a way like, hey, where's our transfer market? Because I think that's gonna be a big one, and I think that's where if you're England, you're thinking, oh, I'm glad no English Caribbean teams made it, because then everyone would be thinking, yeah, well, let's go there. CONCACAF already has things. Grueda, the Honduran manager is out. McLaren is out as well. Man, that is very interesting. Oh, this is a very interesting one. I'm gonna put this tweet up here, guys, to let you kind of talk about it. The international window put out this post, and it's built on another one. I'll show it to you here because I think it's a very interesting question. I'll pose it to you as well. Who are your biggest disappointments? We asked surprises, but now let's talk about disappointments. They put countries that disappointed them, and we'll share that here for you to take a look at. Who are your biggest shares? So shout out to the international window, their YouTube channel, and all their shot but which countries disappointed? Their list. That's an interesting list. Dom Rep, Costa Rica, okay. Cameroon, Nigeria, okay. Angola, Sweden, okay. You have Jamaica, Mali, okay. Jordan, okay. Serbia, okay. Brazil, though they qualified, not convincingly, okay. Greece didn't make it, fair. Hungary, okay. All right. Zambia, okay. Guinea-Bissau, fair. Thailand, okay, I can see that. Montenegro, I don't mind this list per se. I think for me, you have to look at what their form was. Oman and then Solomon Islands. Well, I mean, if you're the Solomon Islands, you want to be better than New Caledonia. So what else can you really do in that sense? That's an interesting question, but I want to put that there. I know Prince, keep me updated on all the CAF players of the year. That's fair, right? We have our new teams, Capo Verde. Okay, Jamaica is hyped too much. I don't want to make this a Jamaica stream, but I will say this: I do recall some people in some spaces saying, "What was the word? Soup." Well, guess what? Your bowl is smashed. Your bowl is smashed, and you can't have any. You had the easiest path, and you're going to the playoff. That's more than disappointing. That is just, I can never trust you. They got a group that was just one team that was going to be a true hazard for them. And yes, you got Trinidad, and they cost you a point in getting the draw, but the draw against Trinidad, a draw against Curacao, they should have flown direct. And the problem with flying, and we don't fly direct, you're going to run into another team that's going to want it more. Case in point, Nigeria. Nigeria threw away their World Cup qualifying, and so now they went to the African playoff. Yeah, they get past Gabon, barely, even though it's 4-1. And then when they run to DRC, they get one goal, and then it was very much akin to that. I will keep on saying that game to me felt like Italy versus England in the Euros in 2021. Early goal, the other side couldn't put another one past. Defending side gets the equalizer, and then it's just, actually, Congo are going to take this, and then they do it in penalties. And that's kind of how it rolls and how it goes. Yep. Solomon Islands average. The top of OFC are New Zealand, Tahiti, New Caledonia, Fiji. Yeah, I mean, this is one person's opinion, and we threw it up there because I found it very interesting. Curious to see kind of what they were thinking. But again, make your points, make your thoughts be known so we can talk about them. And that's kind of where we are at with that. So we have our 42 teams. That's happening. We find out the draws going on. I'm actually curious. I'll ask this question this way. We'll go for the IC playoff right now. There's two sides. Is there a side that you think out of these IC will do well? Right? Give me your predictions. Is there a side that you think can push through for sure and make the World Cup? Not just because of national pride, but how they're playing. Yep. Nigeria and Jamaica are the same, just different continents and different confederations. I think their problems are very similar. I think the talent is different. Son, you're saying Suriname are going to make it through? I have an issue with Suriname because it felt like they just threw that game. They weren't there mentally. Or maybe they thought that the side would just give up. They thought that Guatemala would just roll over. But Suriname had the World Cup in their hands and they let it slip. Like, more than Jamaica. Jamaica needed a win versus a team that wasn't going to let them have too much possession. And when they finally had possession, they can look good. Suriname just had to be the worst team in their group. And they almost bottled it. If not for an own goal, they almost bottled it. So Suriname has a big. I can't trust Jamaica, and knowing this, the lights looked a little bit too bright for Suriname in this situation. And maybe they can learn from that in 5 months. But in that game against the worst team, not even playing one of the better sides, the lights look too bright for them. And that's a concern. That is certainly a concern for them. But you're saying Suriname. Look, I think DR Congo, and don't look. I know no one's talking about Iraq in this situation, but Iraq is going to be a side that look, they are going to score. And they're going to the two teams that you have to win in the final. I think they're your favorites. I think DR Congo is beating whoever is coming through there. But I almost want to say the favorites are the ones with the bye because they just have one game to prepare for. So maybe they'll just play themselves in the friendly just to, prepare. That would be a good idea. Play, go through some concepts, go from there. But I think the two bye teams right now are the favorites until we know what the matchups are, which we'll find out tomorrow. And that'll be good to keep an eye on. But that's where it is. But you guys, let me know as you're stopping by. Hit that like button if you'd like. If you like this type of talk, subscribe. If you're wondering who I am, hi. This is the African channel. We do primarily Canadian African content, but we have World Cup qualifiers. We know where that is, and that's good. We also have something that I'm kind of is happening, and it's my precursor. It's my appetizer. It's my sampling for what the World Cup will feel like when we have the U17s who are now down to their quarterfinals. They're down to the quarterfinals because we had a round of 32, guys. Get used to those words. The round of 32 next summer will be coming for sure. For sure. We'll go to the U17s, but first, on telling me, Iraq, I love the AFC teams, but give OFC 10 years. Yeah, with the UFC league continuing. And then with Gianni rumored, okay. Get two teams in the later World Cup and a Nations League. Who knows? True. Growth happens. Growth happens over time. It doesn't happen immediately. That's true. Speaking of OFC, they were not awful in the U17. No, Morocco just decided to not care that their parents were in the pitch on the last game. That was ruthless. Because they drew Japan, and then Morocco was like, yeah, we need to make this. So I know that's your dad right over there, but guess what? We're packing these 16. He's getting a 4-pack of goals. These 4 people are getting braces. This man over here is getting a hat trick. We're getting these goals. But our quarterfinals are set at the U17s. We have Portugal versus Switzerland. After Portugal in a Redfield affair gets past Mexico 5-0. Switzerland gets past the Republic of Ireland 3-1. Morocco got past Mali 3-2. Brazil in penalties got past France 1-1 and then 4-3. Oh, that's going to be a nice matchup. England fell to Austria 4-0. Japan over North Korea in a very hotly contested penalties. Not as crazy as the Canadian-Ireland one. That was something. Italy over Uzbekistan. I think Italy's been playing well here. And then Burkina Faso versus Uganda got it done in penalty. So our final 8 are Italy versus Burkina Faso, which is going to be a fun matchup. Austria versus Japan, conflict of styles. Ooh. And these are all on Friday? I love it. Morocco versus Brazil in the quarterfinals. And then Portugal versus Switzerland. Oh, I like these matchups. These are some nice matchups. Yeah, the New Caledonian keeper got a trial in Poland U7 and the Poland U17 keeper. Yeah, again, I like the U17 tournament primarily because I find that if the names at this level, you see them more consistently, not as the best players, but you see them as regulars on Sunday, on weekend high level football, more than say the U20s. At the U17s, I think there's more to mold from there, and maybe that's just my opinion on it. I could be wrong there, but it feels as if when I see players pop off at this level, I'm sooner to see them I'm more likely to see them every weekend in Europe doing something cool, or being solid at that level at least. Not world class, but solid top tier players. So looking at this, it's like, okay, these are some names to keep an eye on. But I'm telling you, these matchups, these are nice matchups. You have everything's at the Aspire Zone until the final, and the finals at the Khalifa Stadium. Cool. So Portugal versus Switzerland. Morocco versus Brazil. That's the matchup for me. That's number one. And then Italy versus Burkina Faso. Oh, that's going to have goals in it. Austria versus Japan, I'm curious about because Austria have been very much clinical. And so a Japan side who can be good defensively, but also have to, their ride has not to say that they've had a good test in all levels. I think it'll be very interesting to see what they're able to do. And then Portugal versus Switzerland. Portugal have been performing well. They took out the team that I thought took out the best team there, Argentina, which was Mexico. So if I have to make a pick, these are all happening on Friday. You let me know. But if I have to make it based off what I've seen, I think I would go Portugal over Switzerland because we're living in this world. I'll just go Morocco over Brazil. I'll go Austria over Japan. And then with my heart, I'll go Burkina Faso over Italy. But I think Italy comes into this game as the favorite. But I think Burkina Faso, this feels like a game where if their counter is on, 1 or 2, and they defend with their lives. They have to defend with their lives. But this will be interesting. Yep. Maybe expansion of the Youth World Cup and the World Cup was not a bad idea. After all, TNT still ain't make it. Well, hey, they almost did. TNT on all levels are interesting. In their group, I think aesthetically they played nice, but they didn't have the results. And so you don't get we don't get to celebrate the participation trophies. But I think there's stuff that they can build off of. I think you definitely missed Rio Cardines in your last window. I think that would have helped you a lot as a defender, but also as a bombing wingback moving forward. But no, the more opportunities you get, it's there. And again, with the U17s, it's every year. So because it's happening every year, they have the opportunity. And again, I'm curious to see what teams want to do, especially, again, I'm in CONCACAF, but then watching African U17 qualifiers are starting already. Right? The CONCACAF one starts in at the beginning of next year because this tournament's going to be in the same time all the time. So it's going to be October, November every year for the next 5 years. And qualifiers are going to be group formatted and going from there. So I'm curious to see how teams want to approach it. Do they say, okay, let's take a 15, 16 team with a few 17-year-olds? Do we take a 16, 17 team or go primarily 17 and just say we're taking our highest age ones who are probably our most developed, and then we keep on going, and it's a new team every time? Or and then if you're able to find an outstanding player, do you leave them in and say, hey, yeah, glean from this, so in a year you can take over? Kind of when we see with teams normally, where it's like, okay, maybe they have 2 cycles with the U50 with the U17s, or maybe they're that good at U17, you give them 2, maybe even 3 cycles. It gets iffy on the age for the U20s, but you have to wait and see. Qualifiers for that will get going for the next tournament, and we'll like that as well. Prince Hood, I see you. Levi Garcia needs to step up. And yes, we miss Rio crosses in the bus. I agree, but Cardines is that's a good recruit. Now it's just you have decent wings. Now you need a 9 that is either someone who's going to be just in front of the net and scoring, or you need a 9 that can play in transition. Because if you have a 9 that can play in transition, then that means you can defend and you can counter, and then you can spring it like that. You tell me, what do you think your team needs more for sprints? You tell me more. What do you think they need more? You think more of a hold up 9, or more of a transitional 9, a wing 4 type player who can spring and play off that transition based off what he said? Also, what do you think of Dwight York, since we're having this conversation? Do you feel Dwight York did a good job? Because I felt he did good enough. I don't think he would warrant getting dropped. I would like to see him he's had 1 Gold Cup. He's had 1 World Cup qualifying. So I would like to see what he does in Nations League. And then I think from there, it's like, okay, have we seen enough progress from the coach to say we are liking what we're seeing, versus saying, you know what, some progress was made. Fair. I get it. Dude, you don't want to talk about it, TNT football anymore, and York has been doing a great job, in your opinion. And that's fine. That's fair. That's rare. But I like, again, back to the U17, I like what we've seen with them. We've seen the results. I always like to scroll down to the who are your goal scorers. All right. Anicio Cabral, Portugal. Johannes Moser, Austria. Samuel Ignacio, Italy. Raymond Bomba, Rene from Belgium. Czechia. Reagan Heskey. That's Emil's son. Doing well. Morocco have Ismail El Aoud. Okay. I like you. I like it. I like it. But I find, again, go to Wiki. I find then you'll see some of these names consistently come weekends, whether in the French league, in the Portuguese league, in the Premier League, in La Liga. You're gonna see those names because I feel at this level, this is where they pop off more, and you see them really performing. And everyone has different qualifying formats for that. So I'm very much curious to see how the next wave goes with that. Right. That'll be very interesting for me to take a look at. Local players need to go. We got countries like New Caledonia recruiting everyone. Football is up. Yep. Everybody is upgrading their football. And upgrading your football isn't just recruiting, right? Upgrading your football is also investing into your domestic leagues. Upgrading your football is improving not only the infrastructure, but the coaching, all those elements of it. And I think that's where that has to happen for the opportunity for you to step up, because you want you want to be able to bridge the gap between the people you're recruiting. And this is a very big conversation point that you'll see in a lot of African football. But you'll see if you look up, I know Stephen Amo, who is one of the team managers for the Black Stars right now. He always talks, and I've heard Sammy Kufour, who was, again, legendary Ghanaian player who was at Bayern. He's Sammy was at Bayern in the same era of, say, Abedi Pele was there, Tony Yeboah in those days. But when you hear them talk about coming back to their country, you say, yes, we were overseas and we brought other players, but the leagues were at a level then where your quality, you couldn't just assume because you were coming from overseas you could play. But that's because the leagues were at that level. And I think what has happened in some places, we've just taken the parts of the story where it's just, hey, back then, sometimes I think we take the part of the story which is that people from the leagues contributed, therefore they need to contribute. No. The players that were selected were at a level where they were pushing. Everyone was at that same level. They were at that same fitness. They were at that same intensity. They had the same football intelligence, IQ. And so I find when I hear those conversations, some people will only take the second part, which is just, yeah, we got them from the local leagues. In Canada, I can tell you without a doubt, I don't think any coach that is currently on the national team are going to look at the CPL and say, hey, yeah, because it's our top league, we need to include them. If there's players who hit that level, then by all means, yes, they will bring them in. But most people who've gone through the Canadian Premier League, they've had to go up to either the MLS or go overseas before they even get a look at the national team. There are levels to it, and they're trying to improve that. I think there's always things you can do in terms of domestic football, and that starts at the grassroots levels. That starts with coaching, education, and that's something I always want to look at the federations. And I'll always be critical of Canada's federation in that sense, saying there's always more we can do, and we have to expand our way of thinking, because there's aspects, if you look at Canada's team, it's very trait built versus, and yes, they are technical, but it's a very North American style of a football team where it's we are very traits reliant, big athletic, press well. Yes, we have clinical finishers who are playing in top leagues, but I think you need a variety of coaching to go into that to give you a variety of what you could do, no doubt about it. Does Curaçao's domestic league make CONCACAF champions or the play-in their league? Because their league is awful, but they are in the World Cup, though. That is pure recruitment. But you know what? I could take a look at that for you. Let me take a look at that for you. CONCACAF Champions Cup. All right, so I'm gonna pull this up here. Yep. A bunch of Monterrey is Cruz Azul. Monterrey, Cruz Azul. Okay, 3 Caribbean clubs. The Caribbean Cup. Normally, right now, it doesn't look like Curacao gets through it. It looks like for the so we're literally there. Cool. So I just did that well. So it looks like that's only Dom Rep, Haiti, Jamaica, Suriname, and then Trinidad and Tobago. And then so it's only those 5. It's primarily Caribbean in the sea, in the ocean Caribbean teams. And then Suriname. So I do wonder if that's now, and I have to look that up. Curacao. Futbol. The Prome Division. Okay. That's where they have it. About 8 teams. Do they ever qualify? Doesn't look like they do. Yeah, and so that's interesting. No, so it doesn't look like they do. And I think that's something that CONCACAF will have to look at. Yep. Well, Curacao is that. Suriname is, they do have some domestic players more, but Curacao is primarily just, nothing. Not even that you are correct there. But again, that there's many ways to do it. And I'll never criticize a country for choosing to do it a certain way, but some ways you have to do it, right? South Africa, for instance, no, they did not care. They did not qualify for a Caribbean Cup. No, right? I bring up South Africa because their domestic league is one of the best in Africa, and most of their players they take from there because it's at that high of a level, and they are a solid mid-tier, upper mid-tier, pushing into the top echelon of African sides. They don't do too much for them. Domestic is still on the continent, but again, that's what when I talk about investing into your league, that's what that looks like. And so, it'll be interesting to kind of see how teams, again, you're going to have different teams who can, federations specifically, who can now start to invest into their leagues. You have federations who can choose to do that, or maybe that's a national training center for all the levels, right? When you have something like this, it opens the doors for so many possibilities, and you just hope that they make the right choices with that. And so that'll be very interesting to kind of take a look at to see where everything comes through. But we are not finished in terms of everything that we wanted to talk about so far. Let us go. Let us talk about CAF Media, man. CAF Media, this. All right. Prince would have brought up earlier our players of the year for Africa. We had the African awards. Oof. Bruno, and then yes, the goalkeepers were there. All right, so let's share that here. Hakimi is the African Player of the Year, and to me, that's the right choice. As we swap over. Ooh, actually, see now you get me talking about Canadians. I'm just letting everything flow here. Let me. Oh, we'll get to those. Let me go. Let me just go through the big 4 for the CAF Players of the Year. Hakimi wins it there. I think no surprise. He had the best year for an African player on the best team. They make the Club World Cup finals. They win the Champions League. They win Ligue 1, and he's arguably the second best player, if not one of the best players on that side. So well deserved for Hakimi, the Penguin, though he is injured. Shabak, Moroccan player, domestically dominant, but then also Morocco making the finals of WAFCON this past year. A solid choice for her. I know in Canada we're curious as to why Esther Okoronkwo didn't get more push or more love here. We have a new league. I'm wondering if they need a few more years. Africa can be very finicky in that sense. I think they need a few more years to get some more recognition, the Northern Super League in Canada. But then they also need to do well in the Champions Cup. And they also need more. They need to be a bigger African league, like getting a few more domestic African players. Because Esther right now dominating there, for them they say, well, it's a new league, it is whatever. But I think her dominating the Canadian league isn't something that you fetch. But congratulations to her. Bunau winning the goalkeeper of the year, I think well deserved for him. And then the Nigerian, our Super Falcons goalkeeper, winning that. No surprise there whatsoever in terms of what she was able to do. Those were the big four. Hakimi, I definitely think, yeah, Mama Hakimi, indeed. But no, I don't have an issue with those first four, but I know the Canadian perspective is always because Esther is in the Northern Super League. I think the league needs to build a little bit more international credibility. And to do that, I think they need a little bit of a stronger diaspora of players to come in. I wonder with Esther. I mean, Esther is probably the best Nigerian player of the year. If the Nigerian at the NFF Award, she's winning the female player of the year. If not her, then this keeper. But I wonder if Esther doing well in this Canadian league brings more players to, they start looking to Canada a bit more. The pay is good. What we saw, the average pay for player for a women's league in Canada was $75K a year. That's 75,000 Canadian dollars a year, which isn't bad. And for a women's league, that's good money. Right? For some people, that's middle management to upper middle management jobs. And to get to do that here, that's not bad. So maybe they need to grow that profile of the league a little bit more for them to start to get more of those looks. But we'll have to see as we go. Should Promise be starting? I see we want to talk about Canada here. So let's pull up Canada here real quick here. They beat Venezuela yesterday 2-0. 2 Reds in that game. The conversation with Canadians is you can't drop Richie. He's playing too well. I will be the naysayer and say, nah, you can drop him. And like the way that I describe it is very simple as we pull up Canada versus Venezuela here on the old sofa score. The one problem I have with Richie is he's that type of player who's going to be instigating. And in friendlies, that's not going to necessarily that won't pop off too much. Even though ironically Canada had 3 red cards in their last 4 or 5 games. I worry about that type of play at the world stage with VAR because I feel like with VAR and with better referees, the tolerance and patience for that type of shenanigans, or as we say, CONCACAFing, I don't think it's going to be that long. I don't think the string will be that long. He won't have a leash to use. And so if that happens now, and then you have a player who is known for that, a quick yellow affects how he plays, and now we're looking. And with a yellow, don't give the ref the opportunity to make the decision. That's where I worry about it. But for Promise versus that, they need to try Promise. The problem is Marsh wants to play a pressing system, and Promise doesn't necessarily press. I'll say this. I think he'll more quickly start Daniel Jebison as a pair with Jonathan David than he will Promise, because he'll look at Jebison and think he still has the speed and the pace to press and create that. I think Promise should get an opportunity, no doubt about it. But I think based off the profile that Marsh wants, I think he would much sooner bring in a Daniel Jebison and start him rather than say give Promise the opportunity. And in this game, you had Kone who scored. Promise scored when he came into the pitch. He was only on the pitch for about 20 or so minutes, and he scores in that time. He's a like this Canada game was such a mixed bag. Their starting was Crepeau, Larea, Alfie Jones got to start. Derek Cornelius started but got injured. Nico Segur, Jaden Nelson, Kone, Stephanie Eustachio, Buchanan, Tanny, and Joe David. I think again you need to give Promise the opportunity to start, but I think he would much sooner give it to Daniel Jebison because of the speed profile that he could operate and give. So I think that's is more likely to me, whether you agree with that or not. But for Canadians, because I'll probably chop this up a bit here, this was a weird game. Like it wasn't the worst game. They got 2 goals, which you're excited for. We finally got a striker goal, which hey, I used to pray for times like these this year. But you could see Joe David's form is just poor. And if it wasn't for the World Cup, I would consider, as long as Laren doesn't play, listen. I feel it in my bones. Anytime I see Laren score a goal, I'll bring it up in a minute. Anytime I see Laren score a goal in the Dutch league, I feel my bone. It's like, Marsh is like, I'm looking. This is my reasoning. This is my reason that I'm going to give to start him. But no, I don't think Laren's out of start. For the Canadian reference, I think Laren is in his Lucas Cavallini era right now, where, yes, if you need a specific type of goal, you bring him on. But I think he's at best your 4th, maybe your 5th best striker. I think you have hungrier, younger strikers who will give you a little bit more, right? 2 will give you pace, and 2 will give you the frame. Theo Bear and Promise David will give you the frame. David, Tanny, and Jebison will give you the pace. And they're all performing well at leagues. I think only Theo is at a younger league. I'm not a younger league, a lower league than, say, Kyle Laren. So to me, Laren, I think if we were honest, Laren being conversation is on the bubble on this roster, but he'll get the lifetime achievement because I think they'll look at him and say legacy and what he's done in the past. And you want that veteran leadership. But to me, he's not top 5 strikers right now. The good thing for Laren is that there's no camp in December, and the next camp is in March. So they have that time to work through and see what happens from there. I haven't forgot you some thoughts on the new OFC new professional league for 2026. Hey. That it's interesting. It is interesting to purposefully create something like that. Then that opens up for what's it called? For Champions League opportunities within either Asia or just within them. I think the more professional environments you can create, the more opportunities for learning that you give. I'll look at this and say, okay, what about the coaching? The coaching is what I'm very much curious about. And looking at it right now, what we have, right? Luke Casserly, you have Lars Hopp, Samuel Garcia from Tahiti. Okay, not gonna try to say that. Rob Sherman, Marcus Guzmao. So the coaching looks decent, but now it's just a conversation of can they maintain those? It's the professional environments you need for development, professional coaching, professional infrastructure. You give those players that. That's what allows them to make leaps versus steps in advancing their skills. And then, I mean, you're right next to Australia, so you can You have friendlies with the A League. You have friendlies if you want to go up to some of the Southeast Asian leagues that you want to take in. So I think it's great. Personally, I think it's very good for the league. It's You like to see initiatives like that from FIFA. We all have our issues the with FIFA. Mhm. It is a big deal. Yep, I do agree. Because teams from Australia and New Zealand is there. Auckland F's second team is there. Yep. The, yep, I do agree because it's Auckland. You have Solomon Islands. You have South Melbourne, which that's another Aussie side there. But yeah, it's it's so good for developing it because now you're exposing, like we said, more professional environments, more more professional coaching, more professional infrastructure. You do that. And like with most of these places, yes, they probably do have rugby pitches that they can use. But if you start to now outfit them for soccer specific, football specific, you have more opportunities to grow in that sense. And you can do nothing but love that. You can do nothing but love that. So yeah, I love seeing this. I really do love seeing this. I think it's great for that region, and hopefully it's not the only space. They're able to grow it a little bit more. I'd be excited. I'm excited for it. Right. I know I'm not conveying it there, but I am excited for it. Right, and that's good. Southmount FC was in the A League. Now they are an OFC league with a big fan base as well. Yeah, sometimes that's what you got to do. Kind of section it off. So maybe that'll be their Bayern at least to start off, and then eventually with the other teams get up to the speed, then it looks good. It looks good. But yeah, it's definitely a league that I'll have to check in on and look at what's going on. When is the Caribbean doing this? Listen, listen. Let the Caribbean. No, that's a lie because the Caribbean teams did qualify for the World Cup. So don't look. They need to get like the Guyanese leagues. They need to get a bunch of those leagues in to the Caribbean Cup and then build it that way. This is also where I'll get on a soapbox and say the CONCACAF Championship Cup seeds and like the draws and which teams get how many berths doesn't make sense to me. But that's another conversation for another day because hey, at this point where we're talking about everything. So yeah, that's my little soapbox. CONCACAF Champions Cup. It doesn't make the most sense to me in terms of what it looks like and how bursts were distributed. My watch is now flipping my computer, which is great. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what they're able to do. Let's share that screen one more time here. Perfect. I think OFC is doing a good thing. Look at the team from New Zealand in the Club World Cup. Oh, true. The I have my friend Musa or Mo Football. He's been on the channel before. I was not the biggest proponent of the Club World Cup, and he was just like, "No, listen, we got to prep these people here so they know what's coming." But yeah, there's football is everywhere, and football is life, which means you're gonna have followings everywhere. You may be in a new space and follow a new team, but you're always gonna remember the teams that you follow that back home. And so, oh, agreed, all the money, and that can only help you. And so, yeah, give them more opportunities to qualify for things and then move. Yeah, if you do that, that's fine. Just don't overkill it. I don't need a World Cup every 2 years or every year. I do not. As a man who is still a proponent of the friendly, I need my friendlies, man. I need my friendlies. Let me take a look at this CONCACAF Champions Cup because there's the berths. Who gets what berths? Are always interesting to me. All right. I do That's the thing. I think they missed. I think they shouldn't have got rid of underdog stories. Yeah, which to me on the CONCACAF Cup, which is the CONCACAF Champions League for those who aren't familiar, getting rid of the Conference League to me, I think it was a poor choice because then you could, when you have the CONCACAF League, then you would have the teams that are trying to qualify throughout the year. Then you'd open it up to like the second tier of teams, and that's where like all the stories were. They missed out on it. They really did miss out on it, and that's unfortunate. Because right now it's what, 6 Liga MX clubs, 5 MLS clubs, 2 Canadian Premier League clubs, 1 U.S. Open Cup champion, 1 Canadian champion, 3 Leagues Cup teams, 6 Central American clubs, then 3 Caribbean clubs. And look, to me, the 22 teams entering that round, man, the CONCACAF League, that would have just solved so many of your problems where you just had to qualify and work, right? North American zone, and that's where like you would have. That's where teams like in Canada, that's where Forge, but you play the Central American side and start to grow from there. And then you'd have that's where the very famous, what was it? Mount Pleasant got 6 from Mount Pleasant got 6 from Pacific FC in the CPL. But you need more of those things. I think that getting rid of the Conference League, saying big up to yourself, I think that was a big missed opportunity to keep it, I'd say, fictionally open. Like give it the illusion that it's open. Because then you have these teams try to qualify, push through, and then eventually you'll face a side that'll eliminate them. But this is where all the Central American teams were coming through. I think that's where, yeah, I think they missed the ball with it. 3 clubs from, yeah, they really missed the ball because that the Canadian side would always make it through, and that's where they make it far at least. They would always make it far. But yeah, and then like even on the women with the women's Champions Cup or the Champions Cup W, because North America is they're really creative with their naming things. Yes, Waterhouse. It was Waterhouse. Okay, sorry, I can never get. I know those 3 Jamaican clubs: Mount Pleasant, Waterhouse, and then Cavaliers. I know those 3. The talk of the town most of the time. CONCACAF is good. You get 85,000 to qualify, and then you get 100K for winning the Caribbean Cup. It's massive. Oh, the Caribbean Cup is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't have that, but I'm saying having the league having more qualification up for grabs in that sense. So you can still have the Caribbean qualification or the Caribbean Cup, but I thought the league to qualify was another good sense for exposure. Yes, it probably put more strain on some of the smaller clubs, and that's probably why they went away from it and just said, let's just put everything onto the champions, the cup, the Champions Cup, and run it from that way. And that's fine because the cup is now what, 6, 11, 13, 14, 15, 18, 21, 6, 27 teams, and 22. So 6 got to buy, or 5 clubs. Got you. So the MLS Cup, League MXC, Leagues Cup, Central Cup, and Caribbean Cup winners, they receive a bye to the round of 16. So they run it that way. And that's fine. But I felt like, no, they can be. Yeah. 3 places is enough for the Caribbean. The Caribbean is underwhelming in well, because there's clearly the one thing with it, just like any Champions League, you see the levels between the domestic leagues, right? Like in Canada, when we look at it, we're saying, okay, actually, we're playing these Central American and Mexican teams better, right? We might win a game at home and then we'll lose the game on the road, but hey, we win the game now. We're not just there being like, yes. I also think the time of the year is unfortunate because it's such a, I mean, temperature shock is one thing. Half the CPL teams aren't even in the league yet. And so where they play, you can't play in the middle of cold temperatures, and that's unfortunate, but hey, that's how it is. That's how it's set. Well, which ones? Prince Hood's or mine? Let me know. Because yeah, I like the league. I like the Champions League. Yep, that's true. Cavaliers lost 6-0 on aggregate versus FC Cincinnati, and Sabao of Dominica draw Club America at home though. Again, like we said, you're still I think you're seeing results. Okay. Because my ADHD is real. Which one specifically? Because I've said a lot of things. Let me know which one specifically. Uh, but yeah, I think the league is getting better. Like the competition is certainly getting better. I think it does miss that second tier, right? Or maybe you can expose more. I can understand the travel costs for some of the smaller clubs and some of the leagues that don't have that type of money to travel. Because again, it's throughout the challenges of champions. Ah, okay. Well, you got to hey, you got to expose yourself to it. Okay, I see what you're saying now, Sam. Thank you for that. But you got to expose yourself to it at some way, and even if that means you you give more Caribbean teams, I think if that's what you're giving, I think I think my one issue is just okay. We're giving away so many slots for, I mean, a U.S. Open Cup, and the Canadian Championship. Look, that is and for one for two Canadian MLS teams, that is their only pathway to Champions League football because they're not winning the MLS Cup, so it's the Canadian Championship gets them in, and then you build. But at 27 teams, why not? And then this will be who you're taking it from. The home and away makes it easier, and it's the time crunch of it is so condensed. I would love for them to start a second league, right? Just even if it's just the CONCACAF League, where it's just like how you have the Champions League, and then you have, why am I forgetting words now? The one underneath, that's not the Conference League. Yes. Oh, but that's a whole other conversation. CONCACAF Champions Cup is good because MLS Next Pro teams in the US will sign the players. Yes, they will sign the players from there. I thought you were gonna go because I misread that as they were the teams that were winning. I'm like, they are not, and that's U.S. Soccer trying to kill the U.S. Open Challenge. I'm sorry, the MLS trying to do that. Whole other feelings on that. But yeah, I think give me more of this. Maybe it's more condensed, and maybe that means it's more regional championships. But give me like a Concacaf Conference League where it's regional, right? You have one for another one for Central America, and basically that's what they do have. But have it going on while it's happening, so that there's more quote unquote international club football. Everyone gets a taste of it. Moving from there, I just need more football in my life. This winter has ruined me. There's football all the time. The futsal competition is starting in a week or so. I, I can't get enough of it. I think I've reached a point where I'm just overstimulated by football, and I just need more of it as we go. More exposure, agreed. That's the thing. More exposure to the elements, to different environments, to different types of training. You, the more you see from football, the more you realize how similar, but then how different you are. Right? Everyone will always say like, "Oh, at the U17 level, they're kind of similar in that sense," and the only difference is maybe your coaching, your technical ability. Once you get the U20, yeah, it's the clubs and the club knots. That's how it goes, right? Calioveira was at Cavaliers Columbus Crew, and the coach saw him now versus in the Miami game. And Jay, yep, that's true. But I mean, that's also what you would use a youth tournament for, right? One of the there's even one of the Jamaican kids got signed to TFC too, based off of the U17s that they had. And so, yeah, the more tournaments, and this is why, again, I like, I wasn't a fan of it, but it grew on me. A U17 every year. Okay. I can understand the logic for it. it now comes down to how every federation wants to use it. But again, with Champions Cup, the more you have players exposing those types of moments, now you see them going. We saw that with Violette when they had a good run, and then the next thing you know, some of their players were signed into MLS teams and they're playing. It's all exposure. It's all new opportunities. It's all just everything is a tryout to take them to another stage, and then eventually, wherever you want to go with that, you go. And I love that. So that's kind of where I'm thinking from that. Yeah, give us like a conference league for CONCACAF, a layer underneath, so you can get not the middle tiers, but the other sides, the other teams, so that they can try to qualify for the next year's one, but also winning it, similar to how you have it in Europe. W futsal. And you this year, I think it was the last thing I was going to talk about here. The first ever FIFA Futsal Women's World Cup is going to be starting this year in a few weeks. Literally, nope, it's starting in 2 days. Everything's on Friday, apparently. So that is happening on Friday. I bring it up because Canada won it, and no one expected Canada to win it. And now they get to go. It's like, oh no, it's a real team. So these are the teams that are going to be there. You have the hosts who are the Philippines. You have Iran, Japan, and Thailand, who are world ranked as okay. So Asia plays futsal. Good to know. The CAF teams, Morocco and Tanzania. Cool. CONCACAF teams, Panama and Canada. Mexico, USA, Costa Rica, nowhere to be found. CONMEBOL, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Oceanic, New Zealand, because automatic buy. And then the European sides, Italy, Poland, Portugal, and Spain. So that starts on Friday. And the groups, if you aren't aware, I think you should be able to find this on FIFA Plus as well. So you want to see futsal, again, great tech, who love that aspect of it. You have Philippines, Poland, Morocco, Argentina, Spain, Thailand, Colombia, Canada. Good luck, girls. Portugal, Tanzania, Japan, and New Zealand, and then Brazil, Iran, Italy, and Panama. So excited to see that. That starts on, again, Friday, which, again, I think that's the last big tournament of the year, because we ran through the girls U17s. We did World Cup qualifiers while that was happening. We have the boys U17s. We have futsal. And now teams are either preparing for the next thing or they are just wrapping up. But this end of year has just been a dash. And happy for it. Very much thrilled with what we have. But it's another form of football, another form of soccer, which I think, are we going live for the playoff? The playoff is going to be, for me, it'll be like 7:00 in the morning. So I know I think he's going to do that. I should be able to hop on, assuming I wake up. It's been a few days. It's been a couple of days for me, just with stuff and a lot of learning and introspection on my end. But you aren't here for that. But yeah, one of us will be live for those draws, because we'll have the UEFA draw as well as the IC draw. So we'll know who's playing what. Like we said at the top of the video, we will. So yeah, one of us will be ready to talk about that. Okay, Four Nations, Coolie McCool. Let me just pull up, because Canada, I know Canadians are here. We do Canadian, CONCACAF, and African. So going to give you the Canadian women's futsal team roster. They had a few players who are now on professional clubs, so they won't be available for them. And so that's the unfortunate part, but hey, it'll be great exposure for those players, and I'm excited to see it as it goes. So I am just scrolling until I see it. And I am not seeing it. This is so we'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll scroll up looking for the squads. Unbelievable. Yep. There we are. The squads. All right. So, okay. Okay, that is interesting. So they're going to be used. This makes this interesting because I saw one Canadian. The draw EST is 650 EST. That's for the IC draw. 650. Because on FIFA, if you go to FIFA Plus's website, which I'll show you right here, the play-in draws is set in the next 9 hours and a little under 20 minutes. And that's where I'll be trying to watch it on this site here. So the draws will combine the routes of 22 competing nations. So it's all the teams. So it's UEFA, the UEFA draw, as well as the IC. So in 10 hours. So get your sleep, wake up, depending on where in the world you are. And we'll go from there. Which team do I think Jamaica will likely get? Well, they're either getting North Caledonia or, I'm sorry, New Caledonia, not North Caledonia. They're getting New Caledonia or Bolivia. And it doesn't matter who it is, have a good game plan and beat them. That is what I would say. I don't think you can look at any competition and say, we can beat this side. You just need to go and beat them because everyone who's there know that if they lose, they're out. So that to me is where I am most watching. They just need to go and win. It doesn't matter who they get drawn with. Exactly. I may not be up either. I'll go to sleep at some point. But it'll be interesting in that sense. But yeah, just beat who they are. And for the Canadians out there, Canadian roster, Leah Palacio Tellier, Erica Pion, Jade Fernandez, Sophie Terrien, Maude Lagacé, Shayla He, Jolene Goslin, Cynthia Gaspar Frère, Esther Brossard, Stephanie Anne Dadaye, Erica Hindermarsh, Magali Gagne, Catherine Delev, and then Jaden Steinhauer are your players. And some of them do come from, a lot of them come from futsal teams. You have a few university students with Magali Gagne from the Pitt Panthers and Lehigh Estopasa. But the rest are professional, are club futsal players. So this will be very interesting seeing what they're able to do. But it's interesting how some teams are just pulling players from actual clubs to see what they can do. The Philippines are doing that. For instance, scrolling up because I saw someone from the Calgary Wild, Jacqueline Sawicki, playing at the NSL. So it'll be very interesting. But yes, the draw. You don't have a coach. I mean, I'm sure someone on the staff is waiting to take that role. I think someone on that staff feels like this is my destiny to do this. That's my one thought on the Jamaica game. It felt like too many players were trying to have their Hollywood moment, and they just couldn't get it done. But that being said, futsal starts on Friday. I'm excited for that. Yeah, because that'll be everything. Then it'll just be U17s and futsals. But these are the sides. Going to be great. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. Thank you for spending the time with me today. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think speed is like, this is my moment. Doesn't matter what other players. I think he's like, well, this is my moment. So I definitely think that'll be a thing that happens. But guys, thank you for stopping by. I know whether you were on scrolling through your shorts and saw me here at the bottom of the screen talking, whether you came to the channel, appreciate you. If you haven't already, leave a like, comment, subscribe. We just kind of covered everything that happened as much as we could over the last 48 hours of footy that happened. But let us know the IC draws tomorrow. We'll probably react to it later in the day because I need sleep. But guys, thank you for being with us today. We do appreciate you. And as always, I'm just going to stop talking right now.